The other woman seemed impatient. Maomao looked at her puzzled. Yao finally found the courage to say what she was thinking. Do you think perhaps we could visit your home for vacation? I mean to learn more about medicine, young mistress, NN exclaimed, sounding shocked. She could not believe Yao had said that. Well, considering where my house is, NN would not want to let her precious mistress take a single step into the pleasure district. She was looking at Maomao, silently begging her to come up with some reason to refuse. I do not think you should go, Yao. It is not very safe there, and besides it is full of men who smell worse than the soldiers around here. I think it could be a little risky for you. Maomao had already established that she was going to be busy. She needed to put Yao off, and now she continued. But you live there, right, Maomao? Yao wasn't deterred. In fact, she seemed more determined than ever. Yes. I was born there and have lived there my whole life. I know how to handle myself. Not all of us do. That seemed like common sense to Maomao, but it only made Yao even more determined not to lose this argument. Then I will just have to get used to it too. Young mistress, it is dangerous. Be a good girl and spend your vacation at home. If I do that, he will come around, you know who. Maomao did not necessarily know, but she could guess Yao's uncle. She is looking for sanctuary somewhere, Maomao realized. Taking Yao and NN to the verdigris house would create many problems. Maomao needed to be available to attend Jinshi, and she couldn't let anyone discover this. If necessary, they could quiet the madam with a few coins. However, Maomao wasn't certain the same method would work on Yao. She needed to find a way to discourage the eager young woman. Where would you sleep? It is a lodging of some kind, but not the most comfortable place to stay. Customers were constantly arriving and leaving at night, and Maomao's residence was little more than a shack. The shack was where Seizan and Chuyu were currently living. Yao couldn't stay there though. I don't think you could cope with Maomao's house, young mistress. It isn't actually a fit place for human habitation. And how would you know that, NN? Yao asked. Hey, I am a human and I do live there. So NN had even investigated where Maomao lived. Talk about thoroughgoing servants. Maomao wondered if they might even suspect her absence last night. She felt a trickle of sweat roll down her back. Do you know anyone else around here? Perhaps a friend you could stay with? Maomao asked. It must have been the wrong question because Yao turned pale. She looked like she might start to cry. NN snapped, apologize right now. Oops. Now Maomao realized that Yao did not have any other friends. It was Maomao's fault for not figuring that out. This was going to take some professional backpedaling. Of course, with it being the new year, everyone is going to be getting together with their families. Even your friends might not have room for you. That's exactly right. And she thought maybe you would, Maomao, since you've got work. Right, mistress. NN flashed Maomao an approving thumbs up. Maomao wasn't so sure about this, though. It looked like this would end with Yao being invited to the pleasure district. The worst-case scenario, she guessed, was that she could rent them a room at the verdigris house, but that would not do at all. There were too many customers for any vacant rooms to be available. Even if there were any rooms open, the crusty old madam would expect generous payment for them. And after all that, Yao would have to endure hearing patrons moan and grunt throughout the night. Maomao wondered if she would hold on to her sanity. She also wondered if NN might simply murder the moaners before the night was out. The biggest problem, however, was that then Maomao wouldn't be able to hide her absences. Wasn't there some place that could solve everyone's problems? So you are looking to stay somewhere other than a typical inn, right? Maomao said. That is correct, NN replied on Yao's behalf. She tried to move to a different house once before, but her uncle found her the next day. Who or what was this uncle? Maomao wondered. If NN was good at information gathering, maybe that was where she had learned it. You aren't afraid he would find my place just as quickly? No, I think anything in your vicinity would be safe. What was that supposed to mean? Because there's someone who would crush any nasty little bugs who showed up, NN clarified. She understood. NN was referring to the strategist who shall not be named. Maomao felt her blood run cold. Did he suspect anything about last night? If so, the situation could become like a civil war. No, I think I am still safe. If he had any idea, he would already have smashed through the walls of the medical office. He would be here right now. Fortunately, this thought gave Maomao an idea. It was the perfect place for Yao and NN to stay. somewhere safe, somewhere they wouldn't be detected by Yao's relatives, and somewhere they couldn't be extricated from even if they were found. Yes, such a place existed, but Maomao could hardly bring herself to say it. It looks like you've got something in mind, Maomao, NN said, leaning in. Won't you share with us? Her nose was barely an inch from Maomao's. At this distance, Maomao could not even avert her gaze. Thankfully, Yao stepped in. He said, NN, give her some space. Phew, Maomao asked, so where is this place? Not phew, where is it? Maomao asked, holding up her hands in surrender. Yao said, well, it's the house of someone you both know. I absolutely refuse to ask him for this, so if you want his help you will have to ask him yourself. Yao came from a good enough family that she wouldn't begrudge them a room at least. She meant a certain penny-pinching, tousle-haired spectacle wearer. She spoke, of course, of the freak strategist's nephew Lahan. Lahan's house would be a dicey place for Yao and her companion to stay. It certainly met their needs, but there were also some problems. The first problem was that it was the house of the freak strategist. The second problem was they would be staying at the house of a strange man. It was essentially a widower's house, not the sort of place people would expect young women to want to spend their time. Ah, what lovely flowers, Lahan said, straightening his glasses. They had written to him immediately after talking to Maomao, and convinced a serving man to deliver the letter. He arrived that day after work. He looked slimy with narrow eyes and a grin as he stood in the entryway of the dormitory. Maomao moved away from Lahan. Are you sure about this? He is after all a male, she said. I think it should be all right. You can see it in his eyes. He doesn't look evil, Yao answered, unconcerned. In Maomao's opinion, Yao should give it more thought. Lahan could be much more forward than one might expect when it came to women. I agree. I think we should be safe with Master Lahan. NN, whom Maomao had expected to be against this, turned out to be in favor. The reason was this. Master Lahan had never had any particular trouble with women. He always chose older women anyway. I did not need to hear that. He was a playboy, if a faintly ridiculous one. Maomao did not want to know about his taste in women. There were men who became popular with women because they were good talkers, not because they were handsome, and Lahan seemed to be one of them. So Yao and NN stayed at Lahan's house. Lahan chose a moment while Yao and NN were preparing things and came over to Maomao, smiling contentedly. I will be perfectly hospitable to them, do not worry. He tried to place a comforting hand on her shoulder and she batted it away. You wound me, little sister. She considered crushing his toes just a little but thought better of it. Just see that you are more accommodating than that to the Moon Prince, Lahan said, rubbing his foot even though Maomao had not stepped on it. What a drama queen. Maomao glared at Lahan, but he only gave her a meaningful grin. Now then, I think you will soon have another visitor, so I am going to take these two and be on my way. He winked. Did he know Jinshi had summoned Maomao the night before? Did he still maintain some secret connection with Jinshi? Maomao wanted to question him about it, but she did not want to draw Yao and NN's attention by making a scene. This man is too clever for his own good. She decided she had better change the subject. I know it is a little late to ask, since you have already agreed, but did you get permission to bring the two of them home? Permission from whom? Why, from the one whose name she did not wish to say. You needn't worry about that. My honoured father is out and won't be back for several days. That is why they were able to keep last night a secret too. Just how much does he know? She doubted Lahan had all the details, but she was afraid of what could turn into a very unpleasant misunderstanding. Deliberately or not, Lahan chose that moment to whisper in her ear. He asked, and when can we expect the pitter-patter of little feet? His glasses flashed. Maomao balled up her fist, almost overcome by the urge to punch him. But she knew she would only regret it if she got angry here. Instead, she forced herself to give him her least interested look. She snorted and said, Heth, I don't know what you're talking about. You can see I am completely fine. She was going to play dumb to the very end. Nothing had happened, nothing at all, and she could hold her head high. Perfect health. Wait, does that mean have you been taking customers at the Verdigris house? Before she could stop herself, Maomao had crushed Lahan's toes underfoot. It was not a gentle crush. Youch, Lahan squawked. His normally narrow eyes went very wide for a moment. He looked up and then rotated his neck. After a second, he clapped his hands. I understand. You only have eyes for the Moon Prince. He still seemed to be under some kind of delusion, but she had sort of tried to lead him this way. Lahan was grinning a very disturbing grin. Well, if that is how it is, then so be it. If you just keep at it, something will happen. I will be sure to obtain a guidebook and the most efficacious medicine for you. Now his expression outright infuriated her. Maomao thought she might be the very embodiment of an enlightened being. She had somehow managed to do no worse to him than crush his toes. We are ready, said Enen. She emerged carrying 2 cloth-wrapped bundles and 3 oblong chests. She looked like she was ready to move house, not stay over for a few days. Will that all fit in the carriage? Maomao asked Lahan. Meanwhile, she was grinding his other foot under her heel. Of course, ow. Women always bring plenty of ow baggage. There is more than enough room, ow. At least he could be counted on to prepare for something like this. Maomao withdrew her foot and gave Lahan a slap on the back as if to order him to get going. Maomao, Yao gave her a confused look. Everything all right? Maomao asked. You are not coming with us. What could the dear young mistress be talking about? I am certainly not. I truly cannot understand what you are thinking, staying with a man like him. If Enen says it is okay, then it must be, do you not think so? She trusted her attendant, and Maomao granted that it was true. Enen would never let her near a man of ill repute. Rehashing the argument here would do Maomao no good. If Lahan thought Jinchi's messenger was coming, she wanted both Yao and Enen out of there. But first she wanted to be very clear about something. Do you really not care if strange rumors start about you? She asked Yao and Enen. 2 unmarried women staying at a man's house was as good as inviting the gossips to draw their own conclusions. There was a moment when Yao looked at Maomao, conflicted. She seemed to want to say something but couldn't manage it. Enen, unable to bear it any longer, finally spoke up. There is nothing wrong with visiting a friend's house. Excuse me, Maomao burst out. Yes, if we can make it seem like that is what we are doing, no one will spread any rumors. You have to come with us, Maomao, Yao stuttered. Like fun, I will. Anyway, I bet that house smells like an old person. Maomao, you would be surprised how little my honored father smells for his age. Excuse me, Maomao, Enen said, massaging Maomao's face again. Yao watched them on tenterhooks. We know his honored father isn't there, so you can relax. And don't make that face. It is scary, excuse me. Isn't there? You remember the Go Sage? Yes, he has taken my father on a little trip. It is to another Go contest. Our household has extensive debts to pay off, so we need to earn something. This was Lahan they were talking about. Maomao was sure he had made arrangements to sell the strategist's Go book wherever this other contest was being held. You are sure about that? No telling what he will get up to. He might come back with more debt than when he left. I am not worried about that. Sir Rikusen's successor has recently begun to settle into his duties, and anyway, the sage is with him. He knows how to handle my father. Maomao wasn't clear on what kind of person this sage was, but if he could beat the strategist at Go, then he must be pretty clever. Come on, Maomao, which is it? Are you coming or not? Yao finally said. Yao, my dear, I believe Maomao is otherwise occupied today. Perhaps you would content yourself with me as your guide for the time being. Lahan looked back. A man in servant's garb was running toward the dormitory. He was one of Jinchi's messengers. He would summon Maomao elsewhere and put her in a carriage to take her away. I am very sorry, the messenger said, but your apothecary skills are needed again today. He was careful about how he spoke with the others present, but he knew his message would get through to Maomao. Very well, sir, she replied. Yao gave her a strange look. I see, well, it looks like that is that. She turned away, her expression cold. Enen sighed but nodded respectfully to Maomao. We will see you when we see you then, Yao said, but she could not quite seem to bring herself to leave. Certainly. And if that little man looks like he is going to do anything inappropriate, please run away. Do you have a cleaver to protect yourself with? This question was directed not at Yao but at Enen. I certainly do. She produced something like a crowbar from the luggage. I like the form factor. Short and useful. It won't be useful because I won't do anything. Nothing to deserve being hit with a crowbar anyway. Lahan was holding up his hands in a please do not hit me gesture. Maomao decided to trust him for the time being. And do not you dare try to extort money from them for staying with you. I won't, I swear I won't. Then again Maomao reflected if they paid for lodgings it wouldn't leave any questionable favors owed. The whole thing stank, but she could only watch the three of them go. Chapter 2: The Villa. The messenger did not take her to Jinchi's usual palace, but to a villa outside the court proper. How many villas does the emperor have? It was probably easier to get Maomao into a place like this, given all the stuff she was bringing. Just here in the capital, the emperor had another villa. This was the one where Ardu lived. Nobility like him could probably construct a new building or two just to pass the time. The guard was lighter than usual, and Maomao was brought to a room. Jinchi, Suken, and Gaeshan were all waiting there. Not Basin. She wondered, but then she realized this was His Majesty's doing. Basin was smart enough, but he was stubborn. Gaeshan was much more likely to keep his thoughts to himself if she and Jinchi ended up alone together. He might guess something he wasn't supposed to know, but he wouldn't pursue it. And what does the old lady think of this? Suhen was smiling as she always did, but her smile could be frightening. This was precisely because Maomao didn't always know what was behind it. There seemed to be someone else there too. Maomao could hear the clattering of dishes from inside. She wondered if they had found someone who could endure Jinchi's beauty and Sugen's severity. "Is there anything you need, Zairoma?" Gaeshan asked. "No, thank you." She had prepared all her tools herself, along with most of the medical components she might need. She decided it was best not to give Gaeshan too many clues about what she would be using. However, she then realized there was one thing she did want. "If you happen to have any ice, certainly." It was not Gaeshan who answered, but Sugen. "Chu, bring us some ice, please." Maomao did not recognize the name. Soon a woman appeared, walking with distinctive footsteps. She carried a large bucket. Her face was tan and her nose was low. She was about Maomao's age, perhaps a year or two older. Many of the servants of the imperial family were physically beautiful. However, when it came to serving Jinchi, job skills were more important than looks. Like her namesake, the sparrow, Chu almost looked like she was hopping as she moved. Her footsteps made a squeaking sound as she walked. I could only find a big block of it. "Do you want me to break it up?" In the bucket was a huge chunk of ice wrapped in reeds. It had probably come from some distant mountain. The ice was kept frozen to make the long journey to the capital. It was still the cold season, and they could have gotten ice from a local lake. However, they went out of their way to get it from somewhere far away. It's not like I'm going to drink it. She felt a little bad using something so rich for this purpose, but it was all she had. "Do you think you could smash it into quarters?" she said. "Understood." Chu produced a mallet from the folds of her robe. She rolled back the reeds and cracked the ice. Maomao rubbed her eyes. She doubted what she had just seen. It seemed impossible to do so casually. "Will that do?" Chu asked. "Thank you, it will," Maomao said with a respectful bow of her head. Chu returned the bow. She placed the bucket of ice before Maomao. Then she wiped the mallet with a handkerchief and put it away. After that she walked back the way she had come. Suhen looked right at Maomao and said, "Her name means sparrow, but she could easily be mistaken for a squirrel." She seemed to mean that no one should have been able to hide a mallet that large in her robe. Then she asked, "Is there anything else you need?" "No, thank you. If you would come this way, please." Suken led Maomao to an inner room. "You come over here. You can test these new snacks," she said, pulling Gaeshan aside. He did not question her but nodded respectfully and sat down where she indicated. Maomao even thought she caught a twinkle in his eye. She gave him a very conflicted look and closed the door. Jinchi, looking distant, immediately flopped onto the bed. Maomao did not waste any time. She put the ice she had been given in a leather bag and handed it to him. "Press that on your wound, please. Cool it down." Chilling the abdomen could upset the stomach, but it would be better than administering this treatment with nothing to blunt the pain. "If you need to use the bathroom, tell me immediately. Is that all you have to say to me?" Jinchi held the bag against his side, looking displeased. After a moment, Maomao asked, "What should I say to Master Gaeshan and Mistress Sugen?" "I think I can feel free to ignore the other person out there." Maomao took out the medicines and instruments she had brought along. These included a small knife for cutting away the burned skin. The people out there might trust her, but if they knew she was carrying what amounted to a weapon, they would never have left her alone with Jinchi. What would they do if they thought she was an assassin? It was true that Jinchi could overpower her if he needed to, but it still seemed incredibly incautious. Jinchi said, "Gaeshan is here on the Emperor's orders." It wasn't exactly an answer, but Maomao understood what he meant. His Majesty had likely told Gaoshun that Jinchi's body was effectively a bomb. He had also probably informed him that no one except Maomao should touch Jinchi. Gaoshun may or may not have known the details, but unlike Basin, he would do his duty faithfully. Jinchi continued, it was Suren who prepared the brand. Maomao froze. Why in the world would she do that? Had Jinchi deceived his caretaker, duping her into making the brand somehow? Perhaps not. Maomao doubted whether he was capable of outwitting the old woman. Neither option seemed possible. Jinchi said, Suren is my ally. Maomao found it hard to comprehend. If Suren had really been Jinchi's nursemaid and contributed to his education and upbringing, how could she possibly countenance what he had done to himself? Maomao wondered what Suren was thinking.